Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Should Have Recorded That with Phil and
Adam.
Hello, Adam.
And Tim.
It's been so long, Phil, that I forgot my own name.
Wow. You haven't been using your name since the last time.
No, I use my name exclusively for this podcast.
Well, I feel special now. I feel
Yes, you should. I lend my name out only to WSRTwPA.
I feel really special. But audience, we have been gone for a while. We all hopefully you had a good holiday time and maybe rested during Christmas and New Year's, and you've started your year well, and so we're back here.
We are back, but dear audience, we've made the decision that for the sake of sustainability, which is important, we enjoy this endeavor that we're doing.
Yes.
But we did a weekly. We published weekly during like the worst of the pandemic when we were all stuck at home with nothing else to do. And now that our lives are somewhat returning, we're realizing that a weekly episode is just very difficult to sustain. So we've made the decision to go to a monthly podcast release. Release a new episode monthly. So we hope that maybe that is more sustainable for you as well. So much easier to find time in a month to listen to us ramble than it is to find time every week.
Well, I hope they endured with us during those episodes where we were talking, where we really got on and didn't really have anything to talk about except for like the fact that we didn't have anything to talk about. And now
I feel like there were only 2 or 3 maximum of those episodes.
I mean, true. But it's, I guess that's kind of a lot in podcast world, I guess. But,
yeah, I think we can be more purposeful this way. And we've talked before about how we record on Tuesday nights. And I have a lot of students who are giving senior recitals on Tuesday nights this semester.
Wow. Yes,
so if I have if I have to miss a Tuesday night for that, we can just wait till the next Tuesday night and record that month's podcast. I just think that's going to work. I'm feeling so good about this decision, Phil.
And that's, hopefully maybe we can talk to some of those students. I know, if I'm thinking of the right ones, that you have several ladies who are graduating, that are doing am I thinking about the right people or no?
Yes, there are.
Okay, I'm just
yes, no, you're absolutely right. There are.
Okay.
In fact, one of my students just tonight was giving her a conducting lesson before she's going to conduct at the ACDA conference here this week, and I was saying, okay, I got to get home to record the podcast, and she said, oh, can I be a guest on the podcast? So maybe we'll throw her a bone.
We should definitely throw a bone. So before, if you're watching us, you can see that it's not only Adam and I, but before we get to our guest who is patiently waiting, we do want to ask you to, if you are enjoying, please, comment, send us a welcome back voice message, or a message on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and so if you're enjoying us, so all right, let's get to it.
Let's get to our guest. Is this the first time, Phil, that we've had our guest physically present with one of us and not joining us by Zoom?
I think this is the first time. This is a first.
All right. Well, welcome from my dining room through the magic of technology, my dear friend, Tim Anjél Caldwell. Woo! Insert applause.
Hello, Tim.
Here.
Hello.
So Tim actually worked with the chorale for a little bit this afternoon on the piece that that is choreographed because and when he did, I introduced him as probably the most talented person I know because you know, like, Phil, you know me, my one and only talent is music, and like not even like multiple genres of music. My one and only talent is classical music. And yeah, that's me. Well, and eating. I'm pretty good at eating. Anyway, but Tim is a singer.
Wow.
He is a painter. He is a dancer. He is a scholar of the English language and English literature. He is a teacher. He is a father. He is a true... Oh! He is a TikToker.
Wow, okay.
He's TikTok famous. 70,000 followers on TikTok.
Yes.
He says he's not famous, but I've got 70,000 followers nowhere.
Nowhere, me either. Especially not TikTok.
Yes. He is a model. He has done modeling. He's done everything. Mm-hmm. So I thought he would be a fascinating person to have on and just have a freewheeling conversation about his life.
Well, let's do it. Welcome, Tim.
Welcome, Tim. So, Tim, there's my introduction of you. What did I leave out?
I don't think you left out anything. I mean, I do aspire and try to hone in on all of those things that Adam mentioned about me. I'm a newfound painter. I haven't always been a painter, but I've always been artistic. So it's something that I just started to dabble in that I want to explore more. And I think I have a creative touch, so we'll see how it goes if I stay consistent with it. Excuse me. As I stay consistent with it.
That's right.
I don't want to stop. So
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Speak it into existence.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, Tim, now I'm going to ask you questions that I know the answer to. Some questions I know the answer to, just because our audience doesn't. Where are you from?
Well, I have lived in North Carolina the longest. I was born in Germany. I feel like I was born and raised in Colorado, and then ended up in North Carolina. So, I come to Rochester from North Carolina.
Yes, and you are. Why were you born in Germany?
My parents were both military, so I was born in Würzburg, Germany, and moved to America for first grade on until I graduated.
Awesome. And how long have you lived in North Carolina?
Oof. Since 6th grade. So you can calculate that, I guess. Very long time.
What? 6th grade was practically yesterday for a youth like you. I would ask Phil to guess how old you are, but my Zoom has the filter on, the make me look like I have less wrinkles filter, which I need, but Tim does not.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm imagining he must be around our age. So, but we don't have to guess ages. I'm gonna tell you, I think that especially during Black History Month, the phrase "Black don't crack." I think that's apropos. But can we? So your interest in the arts, where did that start for you, Tim?
I don't think my interest in the art started in a good place.
Okay.
I think it started because I was forced to figure out something to do, and then I kind of figured out, after being in my room for such a long time, I then started to discover things that I enjoyed to do, and then from there started to hone in onto some things. So I would say probably around elementary school age, maybe 2nd or 3rd grade, is when I started to have a fascination for theater and productions. And as far as like creativity and drawing and everything like that, that stuff came way later. And came later. But as far as the stage is concerned, that started way early. I could always imagine being, and I was being in all of the school productions at a very young, early age, and always wanting to mimic and do the choreography from TV shows and music videos at a very young age. So that's where all of that started for me. And I used to just do it in my room and close the door and practice and mimic and pause and play until I got it right. And, you know, of course there was no YouTube or anything, so it was learn it then before it goes off. Because there was also no pausing TV, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you had to learn. I remember, so fast tracking, I remember there was a Disney show out with a movie that had a bunch of choreography in it. And I remember using my mom's camcorder, because I also didn't have a cell phone then. So I remember using my mom's camcorder and recording it while it came on TV, so that way I could go back and pause and play to learn the choreography. Yeah, so I used to do that all the time. That was something that I always did, and I mean from there it just, you know, I just kept getting involved until I continued to hone in on the craft of it.
It's so the children these days are spoiled because they do have YouTube. They have streaming. They get, I mean, and everything is right there at their fingertips. Over the Christmas break, just to kind of do a little catch up, Sister Act was on, and like that for me was one of I love the I think I really I saw the second one before I saw the first one. So like with Lauryn Hill.
Me
and
too.
You
Back
too.
in the habit.
I saw the second one first. Yeah.
And I mean, of course, like the joyful Lord, you know, like and all of that, and like that was, and you know, I mean, I grew up in the '90s, and so like that was on the radio, and even, what's another one that I watched, A Preacher's Wife with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston, and I'm like, just like seeing, of course, like I grew up in the church, so like seeing, you know, gospel music and done well, and that story like really done well. I'm like, this, like I want to do music like this, and so that what you're saying really makes sense to me. Yeah, I can. Yeah, this kind of pulls me. So
yeah, Tim, where did those where did bedroom choreography lead you later in life? How did you use those skills that you honed?
Gosh. So it led me to becoming a dance instructor for a private dance studio, into being a dance teacher for the public school system. And I've been still teaching dance ever since then. I choreographed for competitive teams for the dance studio, and my kids won, you know, national titles and everything like that. Just my vision for dance continued to grow as I continued to work on it. And it's hard sometimes when you're dealing with studio dancers because, and I was just telling Adam this the other day, that, you know, studio dancers usually start taking dance either because their parents want their kids to do something, or the kids want to dance, but they end up being so structured in a way that there's no feeling or heart behind what they learn to do very well. And so I noticed a big difference between my dance students at the dance studio compared to my dance students at the high school that I taught at that couldn't afford to go to take lessons at a dance school. They just moved a bit different. They had more heart. It was something that you can't teach, you know, and that has been one of the best jobs that I've ever had, is being a dance teacher for the school. Because it was my own little playground. I remember going to, you know, elementary school and seeing the auditorium and just feeling at home in that space. And then when I became a dance teacher at the school, the auditorium was my classroom. So That was one of the jobs where I literally woke up every morning excited to go to work because I was prepping for a show at the end of every semester in my favorite safe haven. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really, really good spot for me. So doing all of that in my room solo led to me having one of the best jobs in my life and hopefully continuing on from there, in as far as dance is concerned.
Isn't that cool, Phil?
It is very cool. I mean, and I think, like, you know, I kind of, again, I can relate to that as a musician. Like, I get to go to school and practice, you know, singing and playing the piano and playing the drums because I'm going to teach it to my students. And so, yeah, let me too. I want to like dig in on what you were just saying about the soul and the heart, because I think that can also happen in music as well. And Adam can speak to that we, you know, can be very robotic. How did you, you know, or how are you, because maybe this is an ongoing process, how are you helping those students in the studio find more of that heart in their dancing that you saw in your school students?
I was getting ready to sound very, very harsh just now, but I think I'm going to have to be honest with that question and say that you can't. You can't. And I'm a firm believer, you cannot teach heart and soul. That is something that someone has to discover on their own. And once they discover it, there's no turning it off. And so usually what I would tell my students when I would try to get them to, you know, I wasn't telling them to move bigger. I wasn't telling them to move stronger or sharper, but I'm looking at them and I'm like, girl, you can twirl for 12 spins, but I feel nothing when you do that. And then you could have another dancer that doesn't know how to do any of the technical things, but man, you can feel every single movement that she does with the song that's playing. And so you have to find a way to connect. So I can tell them all day long, connect with the music. But if they're more focused on doing the move correctly, then they're not going to really focus on the heart of the matter. So it's not really something that you could really teach. And I would tell them that. And sometimes they would look at me with, you know, deer in headlights, like, you can't teach us. No, I can't teach you how to have a heart with what you're doing. I can tell you what the moves are, but once you get on the stage, it's up to you to feel what you're doing. I can't teach you a feeling, you know? So, and it, I mean, especially with dance kind of, it ties into a lot of, it branches off into, you know, the theater arts department as far as not necessarily knowing how to act, but you have to know how to connect with whatever you're doing, whatever character you're doing. So it does boil down to the leader of what's being done, you know. And I've watched this for years in dance studios where these dance teachers just throw some of the same choreography and put it to a different song for these students, and that's why they don't have a heart when they get on stage, because they're just doing recycled movements to a different song. And I've seen that many times. And I think the difference of when I was at the school is I chose themes purposely so that my students could relate to what was going on, so that when they did do the dances, I could kind of tap into their hearts a little bit by giving them a realistic situation as to what this dance means. And then that way they have something emotional to pull from. And if they don't have anything emotional to pull from, they're just going to do the movements that I told them to do with nothing, no feeling or anything at all. It's like, oh, that looked nice, but I didn't feel anything when you did that, you know, versus the girl that has gone through bullying before. And she goes out there and she can just wave her arms back and forth for a little bit. But because she's been through a situation before, she's going to move a bit differently, you know, than somebody who can't relate, you know. So, but I also think that it's possible for somebody who can't relate to put on their acting hat and just be able to tap in and perform something. Actors do that all the time. You know, we see it all the time on TV. They might not have gone through a lot of the stuff that they're acting out, but because they know how to tap into it, they make us believe that they have. You know? So that's the same thing with dance too.
Yeah. Tim, what's the source of your own heart?
When it comes to creating, or you mean
Yeah. What motivates your own creativity?
So my personal mission statement when it comes to creating my own creativity is to use my own personal experiences to hopefully create a thought-provoking visual for someone else to see so that they could try to be emotionally provoked to then become a better them in the future. That's what I've always thought about. So maybe creating something visually that they can see to provoke something in them that they might not be able to do on their own. Because it's not being provoked. I know there's a lot of stuff sometimes with me, if I'm watching something, I'm not going to think about it until somebody else creative has did something and I'm like, oof, that just made me think about something in my life. And then I'm able to hone and, go off of that. But when it comes down to my own creativity in the world of, I would say in the world of dance, and probably in the world of song too, I like to pull from personal experience because there's nothing more real than that. I tried back in early 2011. I tried to create music that of things that I hadn't gone through yet, but wanted to create this positive message, and it kind of didn't really go anywhere because I didn't feel what I was writing about because I hadn't gone through it yet. I was just kind of preaching to an audience without having experience. And then it's crazy because lo and behold, everything that I was teaching about or speaking about or singing about ended up being something that I actually started to go through. And then I was like, ooh, now I can really write this song. So, and I remember one of my classmates from high school, there was a song that I wrote called I Forgive You, and one of my classmates from high school came to me and was like, that's probably one of your best songs that you've ever written because I could actually feel that you felt it that time. She was one of my friends that can be really honest. And I was just like, you know what? You're right, because everybody who knew me knows what that song was about. And so it made sense. They were like, oh, okay. We get this one. So I think you just have to pull from personal experience and then be willing to share that, because there's always somebody that's out there that needs to see something or a version of something that they're going through so that they can know how to get through it too. That's always been my whole purpose and point.
How did you get into so was dance really your first artistic outlet?
No, singing was.
Singing was. Okay. So tell us more about your singing journey.
I have to backtrack, I'm thinking, because it was sporadic. So I was always a singer. I was always musically inclined. I remember getting a small mini keyboard, the one that had only 12 keys or something, that my mom got for me. And the Lean On Me was playing in the car, she said. And this is a story that she told, because I kind of vaguely remember this happening. I think she said I was 4. She said Lean On Me was playing, and she said I started to play Lean On Me on the keyboard from what I was hearing coming from the radio. And she was like, I knew then that you was going to love music. Da, 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 da. And I was like, well, here it is. I'm glad she allowed me to, And so from there, I would sing. Of course, I would sing at church. I would sing at home. I remember a select few times that my mom would actually come in and help me, because I know my grandmother sang, and my mom did sing too, but she always said that she was too afraid to sing in front of people. So she wouldn't do it. But I would always hear her singing in the house, But for me, singing just kind of gradually grew, and I kept doing it. So you've got elementary school, I'm doing the plays, I'm singing. You've got middle school, I'm doing the plays, I'm in chorus now. I'm singing all of those. Then we've got high school, and I'm singing in high school. And I remember singing for me really, really took a turn when I was a freshman and I was in chorus. And I remember going to my brother's high school graduation, and there was a lady, the lady that her name was Miss McNeil. There was a girl who sang the national anthem for her high school graduation, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to do that." Now, my voice at the time was not perfected, but I still felt like I knew what I could do. And I remember running up to her after that graduation and telling her, hey, I'm a freshman here at Western Harnett. I want to sing the national anthem for my high school graduation. And she was like, come back to me when you're a senior, and then we can talk about it. And I was like, okay. My voice hadn't even developed yet, so I still sounded like Michael Jackson. But so fast track, I am now a senior. Now, mind you, I wasn't into songwriting then. I was just strictly just sang around. That's all I did. I didn't do anything, you know, other than the plays at school and sing. I was in chorus. And I remember coming up to her and asking her, hey, I'm ready to try out for that spot to sing the national anthem at my high school graduation now. And she was like, well, close to the end of the year, we'll give you a chance to do that. And it was me and like 4 other people. And I remember singing the national anthem, and I ended up being able to do it. So I sang it for my high school graduation. And then from there, I just sang, and I really didn't know what I was doing until when I went to college. And that's when I started to get like this training done through the musicals that I was in from college. And that's when it started to dawn on me that I really need to be doing this somehow. And if I don't do it professionally, then I need to be doing it just to do it.
Yeah.
For me, for myself. Exactly. And so that's when it all started for me. I really started to kick in for me when I was way older, honestly.
And you're a good singer. I've heard Tim. He's a good singer.
It took me a while to just answer that question because I didn't know what to do or what to say, because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And I always say to myself, I don't know what I'm doing. Because I'm always intimidated when I am in front of somebody who's professionally trained. Because I don't know terms. I do know how to read notes, but I'm not trained. So when somebody says, do you sing? I usually had said, I try. But now if somebody does ask me, do you sing? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Well, do you sing well? I'm like, well, I sing as best as I can. Yes, I think I do sing well. You know, so I still haven't even gotten to the point to where I was just like, yes, I'm good. Like, I haven't done that yet, because I feel like it's just arrogant to sound or say that, you know? So I'm just like, eh.
People pay you.
They do, but
then you're good. Nobody's gonna pay you.
Nobody's gonna pay someone they don't want to hear.
That's very true.
That's true.
That's very true. But
that is true.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think like a comparison musically, to something else. So something we're talking about, having the heart and soul. Like there are a lot of musicians, and especially growing up, you know, in the black church, like there are a lot of great musicians who couldn't tell you what key they were just playing in.
Right, I can't either. But I know what sounds good and what doesn't.
Right,
I can harmonize with anybody, and that's usually what I do. If I'm singing along to the radio, I never usually do the melody. I'm always harmonizing either higher or lower than what they're doing. But I couldn't tell you what key somebody is doing something in. I do know when something is major or minor, but I can't tell you if it's A, B, C, D, E. I can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't.
But like it still has heart and soul, right? It still moves you, even though they don't have the technical training. And like and so like, you know, we, of course, I mean, I as a music educator, I want to encourage my students to learn, to be able to not only they need to hear major minor. I'm teaching elementary students, so yeah, that's where we start. Then we, you know, then we move on to other modes and keys and all that type of thing. But again, it's still, I'm like, why? Like, what is significant about this song? You know, like, what is it saying to you? And then how do we communicate that to our audience? Because I mean, one, like, that's why I want you to know why it's major or minor. Because if it's major, maybe it's happy, right? If it's minor, maybe it's, you know, sad or solemn, or you may making you reflect. But so yeah. Wow, this is okay. Good. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, that was.
It makes sense.
That was
And I do notice too that, when I'm creating music, I can tell when it is, has like a sad undertone, or
Mm-hmm.
I kind of lean towards dramatics a lot when I'm creating songs.
Uh-huh.
There's an album that I just did that, well, I didn't just do it, but I came out with it in 2020, and that was one of my biggest things that I had been working on for the past 7 or 8 years. And all of the music in it, with the exception of the last song, is very probably all in minor keys, because that's just kind of where I gravitate towards. Because I like being dramatic and extra when it comes to a visual. So I'm like, can't really do a lot with happy sounding things. So now, any of those songs, I couldn't tell you what key it's in. But I know that the melody that I created for it goes and makes sense, and there's no keys clashing. So it just, it makes sense to me. And I remember being at church, and they took one of my songs and tried to convert it to sheet music, and they kept trying to change one of the chords, and they were saying this chord doesn't sound right because when you sing it like this, and I'm like, but when you listen to it, it sounds right. There's nothing wrong with it. I was like, but on paper, it can't go. And I was like, that's when I start to not be technical. I'm like, well, they know that because they won't know that.
Right.
Yes. So it's like, and they said that I was considered to, like, I can't remember the term, but when it comes to a chord, the chord might not have a name. It just sounds good together. But I mean, I don't know if there's a name for every single chord, but I guess I had some made up chords and they sounded good to me. So I used them.
Yeah, no. Yes, it's right. If it's the thing is, like, we talking with other fellow students when we were going through music history and music theory, like they go together, and like rules are meant to, you learn the rules so you can break them, is basically kind of what I think we were kind of being taught, right? Like, you learn how to follow these rules so you break them. And so when we get to when we go from Beethoven to Mozart, or from Bach to Mozart, like we're breaking these rules. And even then to modern composers now, like we know the rules, but like, this sounds good, and so now we call it, the whatever era, of whatever, because this is what I want to create.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, everything is being expanded upon now when it comes to creativity, especially for the arts. I think that there's just no way in the world you can hone into only one right way.
Right. No. It's like you, as Adam was, kind of giving your bio, like, you dabble in a bunch of things. One of the things that I've kind of been reflecting on is the ways we can be discouraged from trying different things, or kind of pigeonholed into saying, I can, like Adam is kind of pigeonholing himself, like, I can only do this one thing. Like, how do you say break out of that, and maybe how do you encourage your students, or is this just something that you're kind of like, you kind of done for yourself?
Well, I mean, I think some people, it depends, because I think some people aren't meant to break out of a certain genre or realm of things.
Okay.
And so for my students, I'm always looking at what are they already naturally good at, because that's what they need to be doing. Right. And so there was a lot of my students that when it came down to ballet, they just could not do it, And it wasn't that they didn't want to. It's just that they didn't. That's not what their forte was. So I kind of honed in on their natural skills and their natural ability, and then they could start to perfect and hone in on those skills. And I didn't really stretch them that much, but I did have fun with my students at the school, because I knew that they weren't trained in the studio. Right. So when it came down to you know, when it comes down to a school that is a predominantly black school, you know, hip hop is all they know.
Right.
And so what I did with them, which is always fun, is I always took a emotionally driven song and I would kind of modify the hip hop movements and kind of made them a little bit more flowy and told them what they could do with it to fit the song because they had to do it as an assignment. And they were like, "Oh, this actually kind of goes." And I'm like, it just depends on how you can manipulate, you know, the movements and everything like that to get them to appreciate it. Not necessarily drift into learning it and to do it, but at least learn to appreciate it, you know? So when it came down to doing anything that dealt with ballet, they're just like, ugh, we can't do ballet. We don't do ballet. But we did ballet warm-ups. And then they thanked me later when they started getting stronger calf muscles. So I had to give them a way to find ways to appreciate the other genres. Or we would watch a video and they saw how strong ballet dancers really are. You know? And I mean, especially even in the male spectrum, they're very, very strong. Yeah. They have very, very strong muscles. It's definitely very strong leg muscles. And you would think that the strongest of males at the school could handle it. But no, a little demi-plie is tough for a jock at the school. You know, they're just like, what is this? This is hard. And I'm like, do you appreciate it now? It'll make you stronger later. You know? So it depends. I mean... I can't remember where this is done, but I do know that there's a certain football team, and I don't know if it was in North Carolina, but they would require their football players to take ballet class because it helps them with their balance. Yeah. Two completely opposite situations coming together to create a very good situation. I mean, and it helped them with their balance to become lighter on their feet, you know? So I think that they should be taught to do what they know very well, but then learn to appreciate the other things, but they don't necessarily have to go and dive into it because sometimes it's just not meant for them.
Tim, have you I know you have, can you think of an instance where you in any of your artistic endeavors have encountered resistance, and how has that resistance affected you?
How?
Like you know, either harsh criticism or someone who wasn't rooting for you, someone who didn't want you to succeed.
When I was younger, my parents didn't want me to dance. Dancing wasn't for guys. Not back in the day. I mean, it's become pretty normalized now, but back in the 90s, unless you were like a break dancer or something, which was a little bit different, you weren't supposed to dance. And you know what? I don't even think it was in the sense of guys weren't supposed to dance. I think that my parents were afraid that dance was something that I was going to try to pursue as a lifestyle. And they didn't see that as longevity. So I do, to give them the benefit of the doubt for this particular reason, I think when parents back in the day saw that their kids were leaning towards the performing arts, they didn't see that as a way of a career. Yes. And they didn't want their kids to do that. Now, for females, I do think it was different. And for males, I think it was way different and way harder. They didn't want us doing it at all. And so that's where I met resistance when it came down to dance. So dance was something that I did do on my own until I got old enough to tell myself, I'm going to do this regardless. So from birth until 19 years old is when I danced only in my room. I did not publicly dance at all until I was 19. 19 is when I started taking dance classes at the studio because I was 19 and I could.
Right.
And that's the first dance class I ever had when I was 19 years old. So I didn't do it publicly because I wasn't allowed to. And my parents weren't going to take me. They weren't going to take me to, you know, those competitions or you know, if I wasn't throwing a ball somewhere, I was not allowed to do it. So I just did it in my room. And learned a lot doing that. So yeah, I did meet resistance, and it took them until, you know, 23, 24 years old to really see me. I think I was a teacher at the high school when my mom finally saw me on stage performing as a dancer, and then was able to be like, oh goodness, like, you know, I don't know what they think to this day because I haven't asked them, because I'm an adult now. I didn't hold that against them. Why did you not let me? I do it now because I can, you know. Right. So, you know, but yeah, I was an adult when they saw me performing on stage, to be honest. Full grown. I think I even had a kid by then. Yeah, they had no idea. Yeah, I did it on my own, and then I guess they started to see the traction that it was getting from, you know, my followers on Facebook and Instagram, and then from there it was just like, you know, we'll just support, because, I mean, what can we do now? He's gonna do it regardless. Yes. So yeah, that's.
Tim, where can our listeners find you?
The main social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, under my tag, Tim Anjél, with a J. That's what it is on all platforms.
So you hear that, dear audience? Go press some buttons.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna go look you up too, and we'll put that in the notes, for our audience to go find you and check out
Tim,
the stuff
thank
too.
you.
Can't thank you enough.
Oh no,
for sitting down with us. And gosh, we just scratched the surface, right, Phil?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
No.
We'll have to have you on again.
Part 2.
We will.
Yes. Part 2 and part 3, and who knows? This could be an ongoing series.
Sounds good.
We yeah, you know, maybe during the summer or something. I don't know. I mean, I really I would like, my hope, you know, is that I can get all of us, you know, guests and us all be in person, because I would really, you know, love to have those conversations in person. But it was nice to meet you, Tim.
You too. Thank you for having me on.
So Tim, we end every episode with 2 recurring segments. The first is a what do we call it, Phil? Like just a current events corner.
Current events, yes.
Yes, where we reflect on something that's in the news. And then the second is, what did we learn this week? Where we just talk about something from our conversation that is going to stick with us. You want to play along?
Sure.
Awesome. Phil, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
You can go first. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Current events. Yes, I do. Okay. This is weighing heavily on me. Since the last time that we recorded a podcast, I don't think I've mentioned this on the air, but I won a grant to go on a study trip to St. Petersburg, Russia. And I'm supposed to go during Roberts's winter break, which starts on February 18th. And of course, right now, the geopolitical situation between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia and the, you know, West, is so fraught. So, anyway, for our listeners who are of the praying type, I would appreciate you to pray for wisdom. I have booked only refundable travel, which I'm very grateful I did. So right up until the day I'm supposed to leave, I can cancel everything. But yes, I just want wisdom to know what to do. And also, if any of our listeners have a connection in the State Department, I just want advice from someone in government about what would happen to me if I were there in Russia when war broke out. So that is my current events quarter for this week, this month.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm gonna be praying for you, and I hope you do get some help. Because
yes, I need wisdom about whether to do this or whether to cancel this trip. So, why does Putin have to be such a bully? Oh, I probably shouldn't say that.
You probably shouldn't say that.
The KGB is going to hear this podcast.
Take that out.
Because you're gonna be gone for a week. You're gonna leave. I'm looking
Yes.
at my calendar now. You're gonna leave on Friday and be
Yes, I'm gonna
gone
leave the
for only a
18th
week.
and come back the 25th. Yes.
Okay, so are you? And this is like studying Russian music or something. Like, what exactly are you?
Yes, I'm going to observe choral rehearsals at the St. Petersburg State Conservatory, and interview their conducting faculty through an interpreter, and hopefully, their COVID is still a thing, so that's changed a lot of their protocols. But if I can catch an interview with the conductor of the St. Petersburg Chamber Choir, I'm going to do that. So, I'm very excited about this trip and what I'm going to learn while I'm there, but I just don't know if it can happen.
Well, we'll be praying.
Thank you.
My current event right now is the Brian Flores situation with the NFL. I don't really watch I don't really watch a lot of NFL football, just because I feel like it's kind of fraught with issues related to Colin Kaepernick, and I don't have time. But what is been on my mind with this situation is the comparison that 70, I think between 60 and 70% of the players in the NFL are black. And when he, at the point that he was fired, and someone else was fired. By the time the coaches were fired, there was only one head football coach in the NFL that was black, and I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm not going to share them all here, but I think it's just. I think it's just an example of maybe a microcosm of what is going on, I think, in our world, and the fact that you are not really judged solely on your skill or solely on your ability to do something. And the NFL is an example of that. And like I said, I'm not going to share all my thoughts because I have a lot of thoughts. But that's been on my mind. So,
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Tim, what's your current event?
I don't know if I've had or allowed myself to think about a current event with 3 children under the age of 8.
Wow, that's
3
what we need to
children
talk
under
about.
the age of 8.
I don't
Okay.
even know, other than the obvious COVID, I don't know if I've allowed myself to even know what else is going on out there.
Being too busy, there's your current event.
Yeah,
I hear you.
I understand. Yes, 3 children under the age of 8. Well, yeah,
8 and under, yeah.
So that's a lot, especially with COVID, and you're trying to, navigate all of that. So with school and everything. So yeah.
Being teacher at home. Being, it's a lot of work. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
All right. Phil, what did you learn this week?
There's so much. So I'm trying to think of how do I want to narrow it down. I think the piece about not teaching soul and heart, but I guess trying to help them discover that is something that I think resonates with me, and so that was really good.
Yeah. For me, I really enjoyed what you were saying at the end, Tim, about overcoming that resistance and, even without support, even without validation, persevering in developing your passion. I just love that part of your story. And then just more generally, just having you on the podcast and hearing you talk about things that you and I have talked about before, and also some new things. Just, it drives home to me again how very, very blessed I am to be your friend.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What did you learn this week?
The whole week?
Is there anything?
Does it have to be tonight, or does it the whole week?
No, it doesn't matter. Anything that comes to mind. I mean, it's really unfair when we ask our guests, "What did you learn during this episode?" It's like, "What did you learn from yourself?"
Yes.
Ooh. Two things. One thing, well, both are important. One is, I think, pretty serious, and the other one is just practical. The serious one, I'll go first. I learned this week how to have more patience with myself, and just to be careful and to kind of not necessarily know my worth, but know what to deal with and what I don't have to deal with. You know, in all aspects of life, whether it becomes in dealing with people or dealing with situations. I did learn that this week, and I'm still learning that. And the other practical thing is to bring a pillow with me for my carry-on when you're scheduling a flight with the airline companies. Because you never know when you'll have to sleep at the airport.
Oh, man, yeah.
You never know. And this is true, both of us. Except we slept at different airports.
Wow.
Phil, it's a whole story, but let's not relive it. Yes,
two.
well, we'll save that for part 2 for Tim's next appearance.
Okay, yeah. I can only imagine. Those chairs are not the most comfortable. It's like you're on a Spirit flight, you know.
I've never been on one, so I don't know.
Don't do it. They lure you in with low prices, but it's not worth it.
Oh, man. All right.
All right. Yeah. Well, Phil, anything else for the good of the order?
No, nothing else but to say thank you, Tim, again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much. And dear audience, we're happy to be back, and we'll see you next month.
See you next month.
Bye for now.
Adios.